Hey everybody, it's Peter, and this is the Honda CRF300L Rally. This is a bike that I have wanted to review for such a long time to try to show you some of the things that the other reviews aren't showing you, but I haven't been able to do it till now because up until now I didn't have a Honda connection, but now I'm filming here at Riverview Honda. They are absolutely amazing. They give me complete access to their entire vehicle lineup so that if you have questions about a bike like this, I can come back to it again and again and again to show you exactly what you want to know about it. And because I can fill their entire lineup, we're going to have motorcycles, we're going to have side-by-sides, ATVs, we're even going to cover some of their vehicle lineup, cars, and of course the Ridgeline truck, all kinds of stuff. So if any of that appeals to you, make sure you hit the subscribe on this channel. And if it sounds interesting, do me a favor. Best thing you can do to help my channel is just watch this the entire way through. So that helps me out. And of course, it won't just be doing Honda. There's all kinds of other motorcycle brands and other brands for ATVs, side-by-sides, all on this channel. So do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. But let's get going with this review. All right, so let's cover first things first. This is still a 2024 model year. So I'm filming here in January of 2025. There may be a 2025 coming out, and there is some rumors that it is just mildly tweaked, including some graphics that may switch around and that kind of thing. So when the 2025 arrives, I will film that one as well. We'll talk about the differences, so another great reason to subscribe. But that's partly why we're covering this right now. Let's see what we've got right now available on the sales floor. I should mention also that this one does have a discount from Honda on it. So if you're looking to buy and you don't need some minor tweaks here and there, this one's going to be the better buy for you. So why do I love this bike? Well, there's really not much else out there that does what this does. This is a dual sport base that Honda has increased into enough changes to make it a true lightweight adventure motorcycle. Now this one is geared far more off-road than some other offerings that Honda has. Of course, you have what's going to be the NX500, which is a new lineup, basically replacing the CB500, I think F it was, the sort of adventure style twin cylinder that's more road going but can do some gravel roads. This thing's going to go with your buddies with dual sports all around on the trails, but you're going to be able to go farther because you've got a bigger fuel tank and you've got a lot more wind protection. If you're going to go long distances, you can do that. You can add luggage, and the aftermarket support for this bike is immense, so you can make it anything you want it to be. So let's start with the front wheel, start talking about what we see and going through some of the details. And like I said, we're going to show you some things that the other videos aren't showing you. So let's do that right now. So if you've seen my channel before, you know I love to start on the front wheel to tell about the manufacturer's intent for a bike like this, for any bike really. You can tell a lot by just looking at the front wheel, tire, everything else in here. So first things first, you've got a spoked wheel, and this is a 21-inch tire. So that means you're going to have all the standard style and standard size options for accessory tires or aftermarket tire, or secondary tires if you want to replace these and put on for something else. So of course these ones are road legal, but they're pretty knobby compared to some of the other bikes that even Honda claims are more of a off-road or adventure style bike. You've also got the spoked rims, so you've got a true off-road style, and then you've got the suspension here. You'll notice a thicker suspension here. This bike is capable of handling a lot more off-road than a lot of bikes that claim to be adventure bikes. But Honda has a situation here where they're addressing something potentially for 2025. Now, let's talk about the suspension, because there is a complaint that some reviewers make about it that I don't know is going to be valid for everyone. Let's chat about that. So the complaint that you may hear from some reviewers out there is that this suspension is, quote, too soft. Now, I don't know that that's valid for the people that actually buy this bike. For sure, there will be people that want to upgrade the suspension on any off-road bike, same with any sport bike. But for most people buying this bike, while it is a little softer than some competition and a little softer than true, like absolute heavy-duty dirt bikes, it does offer a level of comfort. Now, Honda potentially may be addressing this for 2025, but the 2025 model is rumored to have, at best, revised rebound settings, not different suspension travel or fully different suspension. So if you're waiting for that 25 because you've read the rumors online like I have, there's no official word yet here in Canada of what's coming, but it's not going to be a significant change. Now, it may be enough for some people that are complaining about it, but if you're a casual rider that wants to absolutely go anywhere and maybe not jump this thing on everything, or maybe not, heavily load it down with like a week's worth of luggage, you may find that this suspension actually works perfectly for you at average speeds, casual speeds, and on average off-road type environments. So I do think the soft suspension may be overplayed because the people that review bikes tend to have a ton of experience driving all kinds of things, comparing all kinds of things, whereas the casual rider, this thing still sells very well. If Honda had a problem with their suspension, they would drastically address it, and they know that the people that are buying this bike are pretty satisfied with it as is, or are willing to do some aftermarket mods once they get used to it, once they have it for a while, or just to turn it into what they want to turn it into right from the start. It's not a very expensive bike, which makes it easy to add aftermarket bits. Let's keep going. So moving back on this bike, talking about that engine in a second here, but I want to show you one thing that Honda does right, which is really rare in the lightweight adventure space. A lot of lightweight adventure bikes are just road bikes that they give a little bit different flair, maybe a different tire, maybe a couple extra inches of ground clearance, but they don't actually protect everything. Even Honda's own Scrambler that we looked at yesterday, it's more made for like a gravel road. It has an exposed oil filter there. So there's a lot of things that this bike does right. In behind this plastic shield is a solid frame member. So you've got a lot of protection from just the gravel that can shoot up, but even if you drive over something like a log or a rock, you've got a solid place that it can hit, and that's a big deal. But the other big deal is the heart of this bike. Let's talk about that right now. So the heart of any bike is the engine. Right now in this one you have a single cylinder 286cc really reliable Honda engine, and this thing is actually kind of interesting. It's designed to give you that low-end torque that you want when you're off-road, but it has enough high-end power and a 6-speed transmission, so enough grunt and enough gearing to take you on the highway. Now, the knock against this bike is that it's not going to be great above highway speed limits. I think that's true, but there are benefits to what it does give you. So while a lot of people would like a bike that goes 150 kilometers an hour or 95 miles an hour, give or take, this one is going to be something that, or maybe 100 miles an hour, this one's going to be something that gives you a little bit less top speed, but it's going to give you some advantages with its compromises. Every motorcycle is a compromise, so let's talk about some of the advantages that you get on this bike. So some of the advantages of that smaller single-cylinder engine that don't show up shows up right here. When I hop on this bike, I'm just going to put the kickstand out of my way. Although it's a tall bike, it's a very narrow bike, and that narrowness really allows this bike to be maneuverable. It's also very, very lightweight. The other thing we should talk about when we talk about a tall bike is you should never, ever look at motorcycle specs, especially between different companies, but even in the same company, you should never look at the seat height and decide if it's going to be too tall or too short for you. This is a taller bike. I'm about 6 feet tall, proportional 6-footer, so you can see that it is tall. I am tippy toes to reach things, and that's what you would expect off for a good off-road bike. But because it's narrow, especially here in the front, it's very easy for me to reach the ground. So it's a very confidence-inspiring bike. It's also quite light, and that narrowness and lightness that come from having a lightweight power plant may not give you those, crazy high-speed, interstate and major highway overspeed speeds, but what it does give you is something that's incredibly maneuverable on the trails and in the dirt. And to me, one of the big downfalls of adventure bikes, especially if you want to kind of move into that segment, is that so many of them are so heavy. And yes, they're capable of going off-road, but you may not be as capable as the bike is. Whereas in this case, the bike is still going to be more capable than you, but you're going to be able to go further off-road. And if you drop it, this is typical dirt bike style stuff. You can, pick it up and keep going. So we'll talk about what you need, what's missing, what's here as we keep going. One thing I will say about the seat is a little wider than a lot of dirt bikes. It's more comfortable, but it is still dirt bike firm. For me, it's going to be just fine. For other people, I think you can look to the aftermarket. There are aftermarket solutions for seats here that give you a little bit extra cush if that's what you want. But for a dirt bike style bike, this is still quite comfortable, and it's got a lot of protection. So we'll talk about that right now. So taking a look at the front of this bike, you can see this is really what makes up the Rally and what separates it from the regular non-Rally. In addition to, of course, that larger fuel tank that's going to give you enough range. It's only a 12.7 liter tank, but that range is going to give you, the efficiency of this bike is going to give you plenty of range to keep up with bikes that have much larger tanks. One thing worth noting here is this overall windshield / headlight type section here is separate from the steering. So it does face forward, sort of like a traditional larger adventure bike. It doesn't turn with the handlebar like a dual sport. You do have these extra protection little sort of wind and rock protection right here. We'll talk about that in just a second here, but I want to turn on the headlights here just to give you a sense of what you have. Single headlight is on when you are just cruising. You also have the marker lights of the signal lights being on, which is, again, for a smaller bike, bright colors, but also having a little extra lighting does give you some presence on the road. And the high beam is a secondary beam, so that's what that headlight is, rather than something like a dirt bike, which may use the same sort of setup. So that's why you have the dual headlight look there. I will say the headlights are really good. You probably don't have to add any aftermarket lights to get the basic view that you want, because you have those nice LED headlights. Let's talk about what I would add up here in the steering area and the handlebar area, and then we're going to talk about practicality of this bike as well. So again, this bike is set up very well to compete with adventure bikes. Adventure bikes, the plan is not to drop them if you can avoid it, but it's also going to be something that is a dirt bike type thing, and sometimes you take some risks on a dirt bike that you don't take on a big, heavy 600-pound bike. So let's talk about some things that you may or may not want to add here. First of all, these little hand protectors, they're going to be absolutely great for keeping the wind off your hands, keeping it a little bit warmer on a cooler day. They're going to take the bugs, the stones, other stuff that can fly up on gravel roads, all of that's going to be fine. Even, light brush is going to be fine. What you may find, though, is because these aren't the heavy-duty ones that connect back here to the handlebar, in the bad situation, if you're going down narrow trails, if you hit that one sharp or one heavy stick or something like that, you can break these off, and then it ends up pushing your brake lever, and if that happens unexpectedly, you're going over the top. So a lot of people like to connect this back. That also gives you drop protection, so you're going to maybe want to upgrade these if you're going to go on extreme off-road stuff. But the fact that you have them from the start to at least give basic protection is good. The other thing a lot of people want to update is, for the same reason, is these mirrors are street-going mirrors. So you can get aftermarket mirrors that are a little bit more able to take a bang from something like that. So again, if you're going to go down narrow trails with this, those are two upgrades you may want to make. They're easy and cheap, and something you can do in the aftermarket. I wouldn't touch it if you're just going down gravel roads or wider trails, that kind of thing. Other than that, drop protection can be helpful if you get a little stronger handguards right there. Let's talk about what you've got for gauges here and controls, and then we're going to talk about practicality as well. All right, we're filming here with a lot of backlight right now. We're going to get rid of that in a second here, but I want to point out that a lot of bikes have a very thin secondary bar, sort of like this down here on the handlebar, which is sort of the extra handlebar bar. I'm not on the right angle to show you. That's not this is the handlebar below. There's a small bar above it. But this bike here has a thick bar. We'll try to zoom into that right there. Get my hand behind it, maybe you can see a little bit better, but that is a thicker bar. Again, just standard mount type stuff, so you can put your GPS on there, and that of course is above your dash. Now I want to show you the dash for a second, because there's a couple times where it may look like it's a two-color dash, but there's a permanent little red mark right there. There's some permanent little red marks right there. As we turn the dash on, you're going to see what those are all about. Right now, if you watch that permanent red mark down here, it's actually got an LCD display in front of it, so it looks like it's flashing red when they just flash that when it's low on fuel. Something that's good to have, just kind of draws your attention to that area. Same thing with the red line. The red line is just the same type of stuff. There is no red on this dash, but it does look like a two-color dash to some people. Now, one thing I like is it's just basics, but it gives you some basic information here. So the top button here, you've got your odometer there, trip A, trip B, and we'll go back to trip A, or sorry, hours. There's your timer type thing, and then if I can hit that again, there we go, back to your odometer. Down here at the bottom, you've got average fuel efficiency in liters per 100 kilometers. You've got I believe that is instant, no, that's your trip odometer maybe, and then average efficiency. Yeah, two efficiency type things down there, and sorry, just looking at it again, making sense of it. Had that in my head earlier. You also have a gear indicator. Remember, this is a 6-speed transmission. Fuel efficiency is nice to have on a thing like this, because you know your fuel range, you know your fuel tank capacity, so having an idea of how you're using your fuel gives you an idea of how far you can go. I think it's a really important adventure type piece that they have in this bike. So really nice to have that. Clock is permanently up here. What I don't like about this dash is these buttons, I find, are just a little harder to push than they need to be. I don't think that's the end of the world. What I do like about this is something that you guys are also going to like here. If you look up here, this is an ABS and off-road button. What's cool is the way this sort of comes out, you can put your finger in behind it and really feel like you've got a good spot. Once you hit it, or hold it, I believe, if we hold it on there, then you can see that on the left side of the dash, you have an ABS light off. So the rear ABS turns off for that off-road mode. So this light is on all motorcycles until they start rolling, but you'll know when you see this light on whether you've got it on or off. So again, very basic controls, but part of that I think is a good thing. It gives you all of the information you need. There's nothing extra that you don't need, and that's kind of the summary of this bike. It's got what you need and not a whole lot of extra. Let's talk about practicality. Actually, we'll show you controls and then we'll talk about practicality. All right, pretty basic stuff even for Honda. So some of the Honda bikes will have a trigger here for the flash to pass. This one does not have that. So if you need to flash your high beams, you're gonna be doing it the old fashioned way, locking them on, locking them off. Then you've got your horn and your signal light down here. All our very large controls are gonna be working easily with gloves. One thing worth pointing out is the clutch lever here is super light. So if you're driving this thing in town, you're gonna be shifting around a few times extra compared to a bigger bike. And it is super light and easy to pull. If you're driving in on the trails, that's nice as well. It is a slipper and assist clutch. What that means is if you dump the revs on this bike, instead of having the tire kind of lock up on you by having engine braking, it'll actually slip the clutch a little bit to try to keep the tire in connection with the road or the trail. But it also has the added benefit of slipper and assist clutch, has the added benefit of giving you a very, very light clutch pull. Now there's one other thing I like on the features here. Let's just keep it in the same shot and we'll move my camera across here, a little bit shaky, but kill switch, start switch, that's all standard stuff. This bike is an adventure bike and you're gonna sit there and have to check your route and check all kinds of things, and it has four-way flashers or hazard lights, which is really good. The other thing worth pointing out on the controls, this bike turns exceptionally sharp. So you have the ability to do a lot of slow speed maneuvers really easily. It's gonna be an easy, easy bike to ride on or off-road. Practicality, we talked about it about 4 times now. Let's just show you that. All right, so I've got the wide angle camera out. It's gonna skew the views from the sides, but I kinda wanna show you where we are as we step into the standard angle here. You are behind the rear seat here. Now you can get racks and other kinds of things on here. There's lots of stuff. It does have, compared to a typical dual sport, a little bit longer section here, but you've also got these hard mounting points on all 4 sides. So you can strap your stuff down right from day one, a duffel bag or something like that. You don't have to get fancy motorcycle luggage. You're good to go for a little bit of an adventure, but you can also add various side bags, other bags, top box kind of stuff through the aftermarket, and Honda has accessories for you as well. And it's made to carry your stuff. So that is super helpful, whether it's just taking a lunch to work or school or something like that, or whether it's taking you know, an adventure across the province or across the state or across the country if you wanted to. Down here you've got your helmet lock standard, so that comes on that bike as well, which is just a nice feature to have. You can get that on a lot of bikes, but it's just really nice to have it here. So again, if you leave your helmet, you can at least somewhat secure it to the bike. And again, that's what you're gonna do on adventures. You're gonna wanna go from place to place, make stops, tour the small towns, tour the back roads, and you know, get off and lock your helmet to the bike and go do some fun stuff. So you've got that ability here right now. So let's talk about who this bike is for. Now I'll tell you the reason that I personally love it, because this may or may not also be you. I've been riding street bikes my entire life, but out here in New Brunswick, there are so many dirt roads, poor roads. There are so many like trails and other kinds of things that I'd love to head down, but I don't have the right tool for the job, and this thing is absolutely that. But when you start getting into adventure bikes of any kind, the majority of them are very heavy, they're street focused, and although I'm capable off-road, I'm not as capable as a lot of other people. So a lot of people get this bike because it is the most capable off-road bike, but someone like me would get it because it gives me that adventure type bike, gives me a little bit of wind protection. I can go on long trips or longer drives and that kind of thing. But when I reach that off-road section, I've got the best tool for the job that's going to make it easier for me. It's lighter, it's easy to handle, it's easy to move around with your body weight. Your body weight has an effect on it, and it hasn't got too much power. It's got everything you need and nothing you don't. So who is this for? One group of people that this sells really well to is people that want to improve their skills off-road and still have a bike that's fully capable of doing the road riding that you do. Now, to me, most of your off-road adventure, or sorry, most of your adventure bike adventures shouldn't be on interstate highways. So if you want a BMW GS, then go ahead and get one and do your 8-10 hours on the road and then go down the gravel road to your final destination. To me, what this bike allows is those 80-kilometer-an-hour roads, 50-mile-per-hour roads. You can head down every one of those. Every single poor road that you see that you want to turn down, you can go down. If it turns into a dirt road, not a problem. Want to take a trail, you can do that, even with average skills on this bike. And that's what makes this bike amazing, is It allows you to go anywhere you want and have fun. So if your idea of fun is a sport bike and going absolutely as fast as you can, well beyond the speed limit down the highway, then go ahead, get that bike. But if your idea of fun is going absolutely anywhere and having the bike sort of disappear below you and just enjoying the adventure, that's where this thing shines. It's absolutely amazing for that. It's one of my absolute favorite bikes that you can get, especially for the price point. It's a really good value adventure bike that you can kind of build up to be anything you want. You can do this with other manufacturers. Kawasaki has a KLR. The difference with that is that's more like a mule. It's heavier, it's bigger, it can do the long tours, and again, it used to be a dual sport, turned into an adventure bike. The difference with this one is this one makes everything fun regardless of your skill level. You'll go further off-road with this bike, you'll do more things simply because it's lightweight, it's easy, it's ultra reliable, and if you drop it while you're learning, no big deal, you pick it up and you keep on going. So that's who I think this bike is for. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this bike, what if you've had experience with it, let me know what you love about it. And do me a favor, if you made it this far in the video, give a like, leave a nice comment for Riverview Honda. There's a link in the description to reach out to them if you want to see this bike. Like I said, this is still a 2024. It has a discount on it right now in early 2025. Really good time to buy the bike. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you in the next one.